Okay, we're back. I hope that everybody had a good Halloween. I know I did, and now we're ready for the Christmas music to start. So today I want to just do a quick video on um, a very commonly known topic in chess, but not a topic that is, I'll say, executed upon all that often. So the topic is tempo, or time, and we're gonna look at a few examples of what that means. So the first example I want to show is here in the opening. You can find examples of tempo in all three phases of the game, being the opening, middle game, and end game. And before I show any moves, just the thinking process is, if I had 10 moves in a row and my opponent did not get to make any moves, I would just move all my pieces and capture all of their pieces and checkmate them, and it would be over. Um, Especially in the beginning, but in almost all stages of the game, chess is a race. So who can develop their pieces faster, who can create a threat faster, who can advance the passed pawn and make a queen faster. There's always something you need to be doing, and you want to do that faster than your opponent does. So one example you could show is if they bring out the queen too early. We always say don't bring out your queen too early, and here's going to be a couple examples why. So you might have a position like this one. The knight comes here, attacking the pawn, which could be looked at as a tempo move. So this pawn, if you do nothing, it will get captured. So the queen can come here as a means to defend that pawn. And now the queen is sort of sitting in the open, and attacks against the queen will cause a response because you can't lose your queen for nothing. That's that's not tolerable. So the knight will come out normally. We might have this move, and then the knight comes in the middle, attacking on the queen. And at this point, the black the black side player has to decide what to do about their queen. For example, if they just make a pawn move, you'll take the queen, and white is going to be winning this game easily. So you have to respond to this somehow. Um, in this exact position, the options are pretty bad. The best move is to go back home, and then you just wasted two queen moves and got nothing out of it. So this would be, we would say you wasted two tempo, or two tempi. Let's say the queen goes here. Now this provides white a somewhat convenient way to further attack the queen. So you can make this move, pawn up to d4. The pawn is not what matters, the fact that the bishop is out is what matters in this position. And so, for example, if he takes, you'll take the queen again. So the queen is under a lot of harassment here. Let's say the queen comes down. You can make a greedy looking move like this one, attacking the queen further, and then, well, it'll get taken. And some more moves can be played, watch out for this pawn. But maybe just a normal move like this one. Defend the pawn, and black will do this, and then what? We're gonna keep attacking this queen a million times. If the queen runs here, maybe here, attacking the queen more. And in each and every one of these cases, the queen has to move, which is denying black time to develop their pieces. So maybe this move will come out, and this convenient bishop attack on the queen, and the queen is just really getting the bad end of it here, and it actually is trapped and has nowhere to go now. So the queen is lost. So you see the queen made, well, it looks like 4 or 5 moves and ended up getting nothing out of it. Another example that I like to look at is in the Scandinavian Defense, where black answers with d5. And we go takes, takes. Now, material is equal. Black has a slight lead in development. That's true, but you'll see that the white player can gain tempos on the black queen a million times. So, for example, hitting the queen here. A lot of times the check is played. This is probably not the best move. I'll just block it, no problem. And I have moves like d4 and knight f3 to further, oops, to further attack on the queen. Um, some random move, the knight will attack the queen again. Let's say the queen slides over here, we attack her again. And here, again, and here. I mean, watch out, there's tactics here with the bishop. But we could just play any move. Like, I don't know, bishop here, and castle. And just look at the staggering lead in development that white has. Because white has been playing tempo moves. Tempo move is one that makes your opponent respond, not giving them time to do what they want to do. And the last example in the opening is called a gambit, and a gambit we talked about is when you sacrifice a pawn for some other advantage. And in this case, the advantage will be time. So d4 is played, giving up the pawn. Now he could do queen takes, but we just talked about these tempo moves. The knight could come out with tempo on the queen, and we want the tempo, so instead we sacrifice another pawn. It's taken, and we develop our bishop here, sacrificing a third pawn. We can't let him take the rook, so we take now, and you'll see that despite being down 2 pawns here, white has an insane lead in development. All of white's pieces are coming out. If black is not careful, there could be a checkmate coming up soon here, and it's actually really hard for black to defend this type of position. And this is because white has so much more tempo on them that white has complete control over the game. I didn't do a ton of preparation for this video, but I do want to look at 2 more positions. So here, this is an endgame, and both players have one goal in mind. And what's that goal? Is to promote a pawn and make a queen out of it. It's very unlikely that we can checkmate with our pawns and knight, so our best bet is to promote a pawn. So the white player knows if he puts his knight here, it will fork these pawns, and you'll recognize that black can't defend these pawns if the knight lands there on c8. So that's white's goal. This move here, knight to e7, is check, and checks are always tempo moves, and that's one reason they're so strong. It's because when you put your opponent in check, they must get out of that check. No matter what they want to do, that's something they have to do. Let's say the king moves, and then we can land where we wanted to. And these pawns are forked, and there's really no good way to deal with those threats. Maybe black will do a move like this, and we take it. And I don't know, some more moves could be played, perhaps. Maybe along these lines here. And you'll see that, I mean, the game's not over, not quite, but white is closer to accomplishing their goal and has a material advantage now because they got to play this initial tempo move, check, and then getting along with their plan. Interesting to note, in this type of position, let's say this move comes out, white can play further tempo moves, such as this one here, sacrificing the knight and pushing this pawn. This is another tempo move because if black does nothing, we're just going to keep going. So black has to do this, and then we can push for it. And this probably doesn't work. Let me see. Does this work? I think this actually works because there's no way to get there, and the knight is so awkward. So let's say he tries to go here to stop it. It's too slow. You can't really stop it in time. So that's interesting. So this plan does work. So these tempo moves can be much more powerful than they look, just because you're controlling the game. You're pushing your agenda more than your opponent can push their own. And so the last position is this one here. And it looks like a draw. We got a king and a rook each, which is a draw. But you'll see the orientation of the pieces gives white this incredible tempo move. And I know incredible sounds a little over the top maybe, but this move is the only one that wins, and it's very, very, very powerful. So we hit the rook, and you might think that's the tempo, but actually the threat is rook c8 checkmate. The game will be over. So with this king move, You could also look at this as a double attack, threatening one, two things at the same time. No matter what black does with the rook, we will either take it or say checkmate. There's no way to prevent this threat. The only way to get out of checkmate is to run the king away in this manner, but then we win the rook. Because our checkmate threat was a tempo that black had to respond to. It's simply, you can't allow the king to get checkmated, that's the end of the game. So black would have to do some kind of crazy rook sacrifice. I don't know, this maybe. And then just lose slowly anyway. So this doesn't help him. So this king sliding over, threatening two things, that's tempo. And you'll see that if you look for these tempo moves in your own games, especially these ones against the queen, these queen tempo moves, they can be so powerful, just forcing the queen all over the place. Don't forget about gambits, they can come in handy too, be quite dangerous. And even in boring looking positions, you figure out what you need to do, and then you try to find a way to push that plan as fast as possible. Making moves like checks or captures can be especially powerful. Anyway, that's all for tempo moves. If I missed anything, if there are any more topics you guys want me to cover, just let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.